Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Sunday night, which of course means it's match day review showtime. As you can see, is the norm now. We are recording in the car on the way back from the Priestfield after Gillingham's 0-0 draw with the league leaders Walsall. Stocky. Summary, game of little clear-cut chances. We've already said on the match day live, anyone that watched it on Saturday or Sunday morning. The Saddlers' best chances came through our errors, I felt. Glenn Morris has made two big saves, and their keeper Sam Hornby had to make a really big one second half with his feet to prevent Elliot Nevitt from putting us in front. But all in all, a draw about right.
Yeah, I think so. Story of the two keepers, really, like you say, saves that you've just mentioned, especially I think Glenn's was the better of the saves in the first half, especially the one from the header that he gets down low to.
Yeah, really good stop. But
yeah, in regards to Nevitt, I thought he'd done all he could, really, and it's a good instinctive stop by Hornby. And yeah, I'd say a draw's probably a fair result. They had a bit of a half chance at the end with Gale nearly putting
the ball sort of hit him, didn't it? Yeah, luckily it fell into Glenn Morris's grateful arms. But
yeah, I'd say second half we were probably the better side, to be honest. And I think if there was one team that was going to go on and win it second half, it was us up until injury time, where Walsall, like I said, had a few half chances.
Yeah, I thought so. It looked like we played the game in a better area during the second period, albeit we don't create too much clear-cut stuff. And we've just seen a tweet come out from Hayden Parry that says that Gills have set something of an unwanted league record. That's now no more than 1 goal per game for the last 17 league matches. And I think the numbers were 145 league goals scored in the last 178 outings, which tells us why we are where we are. It's what makes us a bottom third team, doesn't it? You can't go along at less than a goal of a game over that long. It's ridiculous, and it's another testament to our defence that means we're, you know, pretty much, well, we are safe in terms of any type of League 2 relegation battle. But we'll go back to 2 o'clock. Saturday afternoon, one change. Ollie Hawkins dropped to the bench, straight swap with Elliot Nevitt, and there was one change on the bench. Nelson Kambeni nowhere to be seen today, and the lesser spotted Ewan Williams returned from out of the cold to take his place in the 18. But no real shocks, was there? No changes to the system?
No, I think the biggest shock was probably Ewan Williams coming back out of the cold into the squad, similar to Wakeland a few weeks back. They've been away so long, you almost can't forget their Gills players in a way, as you do some of the others that aren't in the squad.
Yeah, it's been stop-start for lots of them, hasn't it?
Yeah, but you know, we get onto the game itself, but I thought Wakeland, considering he hasn't played,
bright again.
Yeah, really positive, and he made stuff happen, and he was energetic, and I know he wasn't on long, but his fitness levels for someone that hasn't played, I thought were absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
he's, you know, a Sam Hornby leg away from claiming an assist for potentially the winner, isn't he, if Nevitt's effort does go in. In terms of the first half, we've already sort of touched on it with the summary, but best chances for Walsall, definitely, in terms of clear-cut stuff. First one comes because Connor Masterson has a poor touch. Jamal Matt does really well, but Glenn Morris makes a big save. And then I thought it was very good from Max Clark to just hold up the second phase of play, and they had to have an extra touch, which allowed Morris to make the second stop, didn't he? But it wasn't coming through Walsall playing through us. No. It was coming through us giving the ball away in silly areas.
Yeah, no, agreed. You know, I thought Walsall did play some good football at times, but that wasn't a move that they strung together. They capitalised on a mistake, and fair play to Morris after the first save. He could have, you know, been a bit slow getting up, but he was right back up on his feet, charging out to make that second stop as well.
And then the second chance, we think, potentially was handball in the build-up. I'm going to ask you, with your fan hat and your referee hat on, Jamil Matt seems to bring it down with his arm.
It's one of them where if it hits his arm and then he goes on to score from it, it probably gets disallowed, because it's that ruling in regards to the handball, or you can't handball and then score from it, weirdly.
But if you set up a goal, it's okay, it's not handball then, which is just really confusing. But again, that's a super stop from Glenn Morris, because I think the ball gets played out wide. Jamil Matt, I can't say his name, so we'll just call him the big fella up front. He makes his run into the box, doesn't stop after laying the ball off, and I mean, he does everything right at centre forward. It's header down, and Glenn Morris does brilliantly to get down and get a big hand on it.
Yeah, it's a great header. At the time, I thought it was a lot further in the corner than what it was watching it back, for the clip that you got from Matchday Live, but it's still a great instinctive save, and he still had to get down low regardless if it's a bit more central than what I thought it was originally.
Yeah, and in terms of our attacking chances, it was probably the best of them was Armani Little's early free kick that he got up and down and the keeper made a decent stop. Max Clark unfortunately couldn't keep the rebound on target, but aside from that, it's that phrase again, unfortunately, huff and puff, and not a lot of quality in the final third, which comes from a lack of form from our strikers, a lack of confidence, and again, playing this front three that isn't working. It's just a number 10 out of position again who doesn't look comfortable in Jimmy J Morgan. Yeah,
just going back to the chances as well, like the most frustrating thing was when Joe won that free kick on almost on the byline. Yeah. The delivery, we actually tried a set piece routine, but the ref wasn't ready. And
oh yes, when he cut it back to Jimmy J Morgan and the ref pulled it back and said we had to do it again.
And then after the second time round, we just made an absolute hash of it. And I think that's the biggest frustration with us at times. We know that we don't score enough or create enough, so set pieces seem our most opportune time that we're going to score. And then when we then waste them or don't beat the first man, it leads to that increased level of frustration. But, going back to the front three, I feel Morgan and the 10 didn't really work today, to be honest, and I'm not entirely convinced that formation is working for us, especially with playing like almost a back five with the wing backs, and then you've got Mackenzie and Little in front who are almost operating as
7
CDMs.
defensive players,
that's what I mean. You're looking at 7 defensive players, and then you're relying on a lot of work to be done up top. Relying on balls into the channel and
or set plays, like you say, just playing for set plays, which isn't sustainable.
No, definitely not. But with the balls in the channels, relying on people like Joe and that to almost make something happen.
Which again becomes predictable, doesn't it? It's not going to take defences long to cotton on to what we're doing.
No, definitely not. It almost seems like we're setting out to not concede rather than to score.
Yeah, it certainly seems a system that's working in terms of a defensive setup, because it's 3 clean sheets on the bounce at home now and it's 3 unbeaten, so we're going the right way, but it's always about balance, isn't it? And we're still not getting it right, and obviously the reasons that we've already mentioned play a big part as well. But we did have the ball in the net once in the first period, but it was quickly chalked off. I think we heard the goal music for all of about a second before it was stopped. It was clear foul by Robbie Mackenzie, isn't it, which allows Conor Buss and the header across the keeper and into the back of the net.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think like the refs, at this level they do their research, and I think it's something that they're probably looking out for, especially with the Max Clark goal last week where Amos got the block in. I think it's something they're probably keeping an active eye on in terms of their preparation, and it's a bit too obvious from Robbie.
Some say block, some say shove.
Yeah.
depends what colours you're wearing. But yeah, that was it in terms of the first half. Second period though, I thought we played in better areas. I thought we pushed them back, and they looked like a side that was content to play on the counter attack a little bit more. There was the early chance for Morgan, wasn't there, straight from kick off. And we'd said he was struggling to get in the game, so it was great to see him show that belief, and it wasn't a bad effort. He drifted wide of the far post. Robbie Mackenzie had one that the keeper nearly spilled. But yeah, it felt like we were playing the game in their third a little bit more, albeit same problems persisted.
But there was another chance for Morgan where it comes to him and he takes the extra touch, where he'd had the shot in the opening exchanges of the second half. I think he'd had.
Yes.
Did he have a shot in the first half as well from a distance?
Can't remember.
Or maybe that was the free kick.
The one where he was hoping he was, that got pulled back,
and I just felt then he could have just gone with it first time, rather than taking an extra touch. But
that's us in the final third, and everything seems laboured, and like again, I can't say it enough, a lack of confidence and a lack of form. We made a couple of changes, didn't we? Johnny Williams was the first introduced for Morgan, which I was pleased with. It meant that we had everybody in their correct positions then, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we was able to get someone in between the lines better, because, and it's not Morgan's fault, it's not his natural role, and it's still a bit alien to him. To me, it seems that John Coleman keeps persisting with it, because we're in games at half time rather than thinking, and it comes back to your point about it's almost settling for not getting beat rather than being brave enough to try and take the game by the scruff of the neck. But we made that change. Johnny Williams had a couple of moments, but too often he fell down the same hole as others in terms of wasting possession.
He had a good effort that went just wide though.
Near the end,
near the end, which was a chance that I'd only just recalled just as we're speaking. It was a great feat from Nevitt, wasn't it? And then he's curled it just wide. But yeah,
Then we had a free kick that we overcomplicated. It was clearly a shooting position for Little, and he's rolled it backwards to Mackenzie, which just reduces your options for me. If you're striking it first time from sort of 6-7 yards outside the box, you can go side of the wall, go under the wall, you can go up and down over the wall. But as soon as you roll that to Mackenzie, you know that Mackenzie's going to put laces through, so it reduces the amount of ways that you can try and get on target.
They're going to close that gap down.
Of course they are, yeah. We had that. The big chance was right at the end after Jacob Wakeland had been introduced, and like you said, he was really bright, and he escapes away from his man, gets himself between ball and defender, so can't be touched. I mean, we do everything right, and it just sums up Elliot Nevitt's luck, doesn't it? It's ball across the box, Nevitt's wrestling with his centre-back, gets there, gets enough contact on it. Unfortunately, when you've only scored 3 goals all season, it hits the keeper's shins and goes away to safety. I'm sure if he was in double figures, it goes in the bottom corner, but that was probably the chance of the second period. Yeah,
definitely, without a doubt. Like I said earlier, I felt he'd done all he could really. He had to hit it first time due to the pace of the ball. There's an argument that, okay, it was a bit central, but then I think adjusting your body with the kind of run that he made and the pace of the ball coming in, I felt he got a good connection with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just like you say, it just sums up his luck, and you can't fault his work rate, but you know, there just hasn't been enough goals, and I don't think that's a him problem necessarily, because we know that we don't create enough chances.
You only have to go back to that Hayden Parry stat to say that it's an issue that's certainly long before Elliot Nevitt arrived at the football club. Yeah. We've already mentioned their half chance at the end corner came in, or free kick that was clipped over the bar. The Johnny Williams one that he tried to bend far post. I think he had another one left-footed, didn't he? That he skewed into the Rainham end.
But nearly hit us.
Yeah, you nearly caught that one. To be fair,
I was messaging Boz at the time, and nearly got hit.
But it sort of petered out a little bit, didn't it? Walsall had more ball in the final period of the game, and certainly through injury time, which was 9 minutes long.
9 minutes, and normally, you know, the rule went up, and you think, oh, there's plenty of time for us to score. But I think as it went on, they
took the sting out of the game, didn't they? Which they did really well. I think it would have been harsh if they'd nicked a winner near the end. I was sitting there thinking, I didn't say anything to you at the time, but I'm thinking if they nick a winner here, they win the league, because they're the sort of games you win when you go and win the football, when you win a title. But they didn't. I'm not sure how many teams are going to remain unbeaten against Walsall this season, so I think all in all, you have to say it's a decent point.
Yeah, it's a point you would have taken beforehand, wouldn't you? And like we said at the start, walking to the ground, it's you know, we're kind of building a bit of home form, albeit it's not the greatest, but it's another game unbeaten at home, it's another clean sheet, so I think you've got to clutch to them kind of positives, because maybe a couple of months ago that's the kind of game we probably would have lost, and
absolutely,
there would have been a bit of a meltdown in the ground. And
was it 1 defeat in 5 now, I think, at the Priestfield? Draws like draw today, draw against Crewe, beaten Bradford, beaten Morecambe, so the only defeat I think in that time's Fleetwood. Yeah, so it's, you know, it's small steps, nothing more than that. We're not going to sit here and get overexcited. I still think there's things we can do better in terms of on the pitch decision making, and certainly from the touchline decision making as well. I said to you, didn't I, there was loads seem to be running on empty second period, and you've got people that you can bring on. You can bring a Ewan Williams on for an Arnie Little or a Robbie McKenzie, but I guess in John Coleman's defence he thinks we're probably on top to a degree, so why do you don't want to change it and introduce someone, because then he gets bashed if we go and concede after making a change. So I guess it is rock and a hard place. In terms of man and a match from the sponsors, that was Glenn Morris, that was never in doubt. Honourable mentions though go to
Hutton and Clark, both fullbacks, wingbacks, you know, done their job
super solid,
and looked alright going forward as well. So.
Yeah, and the 3 centre-backs I don't think were in any trouble at all, really, were they, considering they've come up against Jamel Matt, who's got double figures for the season. A really solid defensive performance, but like we say, it's just a case of trying to get that balance right, which we still struggle to do, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, another point on the board, cannot moan at that. That is 2 points in the last few weeks against the league leader, so can't grumble too much. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please consider hitting that like button, and please continue to press subscribe. Right, we'll be back later in the week for a match preview with a Harrogate Town fan. Myself, Ava and Nick will be in Harrogate next week for a Matchday Live, but until then, I will leave you with the final 3 words from Ava.
Up the Gills.
Up the Gills indeed.